Democrats are freeloaders. They want free government stuff for people to keep them poor, keep them uneducated, and keep them Democrat.
Yes, Nancy Mace, Congresswoman, pointing at what I think everyone knows. Is that fair to say? Montgomery County schools, they can't even spell the word school. That's not a good sign. Bad sign. Little cat scratch fever now. Why not? Is there a song about monkeypox yet? I don't know what cat scratch fever exactly, but now they've popularized monkeypox. They're happy that monkeypox is as popular as it is now. Hey, Michael, how do you get monkeypox again?
The old-fashioned way.
The old-fashioned way is correct. And a very good Wednesday to you. Welcome back. Once again, we can be reached at 888-630-9625. Absolutely toll-free. I like toll-free numbers. Do you like toll-free numbers? You've actually got a toll-free number, Michael. I've always thought that was a little weird. Why do you have maybe I don't want to know. That's kind of strange stuff. But we have a lot going on today, of course. From California, from sea to shining sea, we've got the madness of the lunatics. In New York, another Democrat arrested because he was plotting to murder ICE agents because the Democrat Party told him to. Said it's a good idea to shoot, like in Texas with the gang of, Michael, how many of those people in Texas that attacked ICE, how many of them were transgender? We had apparently several of them have some kind of a gender fluid issue. I find that really the best thing for gender fluid is a good hosing down. Good hosing. You got to hose down that gender fluid because you don't want that. A news story yesterday, Democrats attacked a vehicle, and the way it was described, they said there was bodily fluid smeared on the vehicle, and they didn't explain. And I thought maybe that's enough. Maybe that's just. But they're smearing bodily fluids, as they're fond of doing, not just for recreational purposes anymore, but now also for political reasons. Aren't they amazing? Yes, sir. Another Democrat was arrested, this time in New York, and charged with threatening to shoot ICE agents because the Democrat Party figures it's pretty trendy right now to murder because they're the left. They're lefties, and nobody murders like the left. Just let's start at 1917, the Bolshevik Revolution in St. Petersburg, Russia. Vladimir, not Putin, of course, but the earlier one, Lenin. We had Lenin back then. Although Bernie Sanders was there with him. Bernie liked Vlad very much. He honeymooned in the Soviet Union. Remarkable. And interestingly, Tim Walz, the running mate of Kamala Harris and the current governor of Minnesota, he honeymooned in communist China. Huh. Isn't that interesting? Well, they couldn't find a cage to be bound in for their honeymoons, so they went to the Soviet Union in Bernie's case and to communist China in Walz's case. They're not normal people. They're not well-adjusted people. Yeah, but a man in New York has been charged with crimes because he's threatening to shoot ICE agents and their kids. Quote, kill them all. Kill them all. Wants to kill them all. A deranged upstate man threatened to kill federal immigration officials and even their children. But instead, he just sent a check to Planned Parenthood because, it kind of cuts through the stuff right there. In a series of disturbing online posts, authorities said on Tuesday, Matthew White, 43 years old, Jamestown, New York, posted a string of chilling threats on X. That used to be called Twitter. It's the platform formerly known as, and then, Elon Musk bought it. And he said, let's call it X from now on. Vowing to put a bullet in immigration and customs enforcement officials and calling the federal agency the New Age Gestapo. Although when he said it out loud, he might have said gazpacho, which is a nice spicy Spanish soup, because that's what Governor Tim Walz said. He said that, they're the gazpacho.
Donald Trump's modern-day Gestapo is scooping folks up off the streets.
he's thinking soup, and that's why he said scooping, because he's thinking like a soup spoon. And the gazpacho, this is the ice, is Donald Trump's modern-day gazpacho. They're not a bright bunch. But now Matthew White, 43 years old, he wanted to murder because the Democrats they've made it a Democrat Party trend. This is one of their things. One rant, White threatened to kill an agent, quote, but first his children, end quote. And you know what the Democrats in Washington, D.C. on Capitol Hill are doing in response to this? The Democrat senators are trying to pass a bill making it illegal for ICE agents to conceal their identities when they're on raids and grabbing cartel members who in Mexico, for example, are famous for hunting down the federal agents and their families and murdering them all and leaving them hanging upside down under bridges. And the Democrats want to see that here because they're really here to screw everything up. And that's one thing they can do. They can do that. They're Jeffrey Epstein guy. What happened to him anyway? Good stuff. Yeah, but first his children. So his Democrat, Mr. White, we'll call him Matthew White because that's his name. There is no place in our community, they love that word community, for such hate against any human beings. Just amazing. The Democrat Party has done this to our country, and they've made it normal. They've made political violence normal, mob street political violence normal, shooting political enemies, Steve Scalise, Donald Trump, the list goes on, shooting their political enemies. And then how many, 4 presidents have been assassinated in the history of the United States? The first 3 were Republicans shot and killed by Democrats, starting with Abraham Lincoln, of course, who, because they were angry, they wanted to keep their slaves, and the bullwhips and the plantations and that whole thing. And the bullwhips are they're for recreational reasons too. See Robert Mapplethorpe, but that's another thing altogether. And the Democrats they've made insanity normal and transgenderism. Speaking of which, the governor of California, he's now just a couple of weeks ago, he said it's a matter of fairness. We can't let boys compete against girls in sports and men compete against women in sports. Well, he's changed what's left of his mind about that. Now it's really good that boys are stealing girls' trophies and that men can beat up women, and we want to see more of that because they're not liberals, they're the left. It's a very, very different proposition. So we have that going and a lot more as well. Just extraordinary Democrat Party stuff. Once again, because a few hours have passed, and once again, they've provided me with a bucket full of crazy. These guys, what kind of drugs are they doing anyway? Because normal people don't think. You got to be like on crystal meth, or is the meth still crystal, or is it just methamphetamine? And fentanyl, and you got to mix it. If you mix the fentanyl and the methamphetamine, then you'll be like George Floyd that day that he was passing counterfeit $20 bills to legal immigrants who were trying to make their way in America and build a business. And then he resisted arrest, and then he died of cardiac arrest. It was a sad, sad story. Amazing stuff. Now, they're also in Washington, D.C., this one is quite remarkable. Trump fired them. Here's the headline, NOTUS. It's news of the U.S., news of the United States, NOTUS, like POTUS, president of the United States and stuff. Trump fired them. Now they're plotting to stop him. Former USAID, the Agency for International Development, under the umbrella of the State Department, where we were funding like transgender opera in Burkina Faso and cross-dressing seminars in Venezuela, and they not a lot of good stuff with our tax dollars. You get back to work because the permanent bureaucracy is counting on you to pay for their demented mental dreams. But former USAID and State Department officials worried about the future of democracy. Well, you're the problem with the future of democracy. Say they're actively organizing to resist Trump inside and outside of government. It's really they're going to fire on Fort Sumter and reopen plantations. States are going to start breaking away soon. Once again, they're going to have to find their new Jefferson Davis. Some of the democracy-building experts President Donald Trump fired this year from the U.S. Agency for International Development and the State Department are now reapplying their skills and knowledge, the skills and knowledge that they built up over decades working for the U.S. government, undermining governments overseas. Now their plot is to undermine Trump's power. That is the actual elected leadership of the United States of America. But these members of the permanent bureaucracy, like communist pig dogs, they're planning on using their government skills and their organization to undermine the elected president of the United States because they're Democrats. You see, that's the thing. For years, these officials were stationed across the globe, actively supporting opposition movements in autocratic nations. Now they've got time, a network of former colleagues, and a growing sense of moral indignation. They love the moral indignation, don't they? Isn't it amazing? It takes from those of us who worked in authoritarian countries we've become one, said a currently employed federal official who spoke to Notice on the condition of anonymity, since he's in the midst of committing a series of felonies and is engaged in an insurrection, a conspiracy, a violation of the RICO statutes, a long list of felonies. Just amazing. We were so quick to disband AID, the Agency for International Development, a government agency inside the permanent bureaucracy, the group that supposedly instigates color revolutions. They always have to bring race into it, don't they? It's like, the green revolution and the red revolution and the Arab Spring, and they're instigating and inciting uprisings in foreign countries, which probably is not something we should be doing a lot of. And now they're planning on doing it here in the United States. But they've done a very foolish thing, said the anonymous person who should be in handcuffs being dragged across the sidewalk by federal agents. You just released a bunch of well-trained individuals into your population, right? If you kept our offices going, you see, then, we just play solitaire in the office. Said that he admitted that what they do is they just play solitaire in the office, and they undermine governments overseas. And now they're engaged openly, more or less openly, in a plot to undermine the United States of America and the actual elected president of the United States, our civilian leadership. But the bureaucrats inside the machine, they're going to overthrow the U.S. government. See? Trump fired them. Now they're plotting to stop him. Isn't that amazing? Yeah, quite remarkable. USAID, it looks like we should have fired these people a long time ago. First of all, what are you tampering with governments overseas all over the place? And now that you got a little free time, instead of playing solitaire in your office like you usually do, and surfing, presumably the child porn sites, because that's the thing. Oh, yeah, and yesterday we learned from Pam Bondi that they won't be releasing the child porn of Jeffrey Epstein from his laptop, which I think we're all relieved to hear, or maybe not all of us. There are, a lot of Democrats, like the Democrat mayor of College Park, Maryland. He's currently in a penitentiary. And then who was the second Democrat around here that was arrested for more child porn? The Democrats, they like that stuff. But the people who are responsible for creating color revolutions, they have a very casual term for them. They are plotting against Trump from inside the government and from outside the government, and they think that it's cool, and they're telling a reporter from Notice, never mind the fact that they're committing felonies all over the place. Also, who is funding the anti-ICE activists in Los Angeles? They're always organized. They always have millions and millions of dollars. Isn't that great? Everybody should create a left-wing group and then get millions of tax dollars and, just undermine your neighborhood. What do you think globally, undermine locally? It's the old bumper sticker. Yeah, and the Democrats, they're in Washington fighting to make sure that ICE agents have to identify themselves to the cartels and the gang members so that their families, their children are in danger and that they themselves are in danger. And the Democrats, what are they fighting for in Washington? To make sure that our federal law enforcement officials are in grave danger every day. Just amazing. Remember, we were just talking the other day about the Democrats saying all their constituents want them to go out and get shot. There must be blood. They need more blood. The Democrat Party of old is the Democrat Party of new. And Ketanji Brown Jackson is in the news again. For all the wrong reasons, but CNN loves it because she's anti-Trump. The Democrat Party needs to start breaking away states and creating the neo-Confederacy. They are not on our side. Also, penitentiary face Brennan, the communist voting CIA director under Barack Obama, now under investigation, along with James Comey, criminal investigation for the corruption that they perpetrated during the Obama administration, the first Trump administration, the Biden administration. Again, undermining the political opponents of the Democratic Party, because the Democratic Party isn't. Chris here with a list of things that none of us should trust. The Washington Post, the New York Times, anything on CNN. Here's a list of things that I do trust. The Washington Times. Support real journalism for just $1 a week at washingtontimes.com/Chris. All right, we're back, and we got another one. The Democrats now at Mattel, the toy people. Listen to this. Barbie introduces first doll with type 1 diabetes. Well, they jump right to type 1. I want to share that with you coming up as well. But first, let's go to the telephones, Michael. Let's go to Bob calling from Chattanooga, Tennessee. Oh, Bob, you're on the Chris Plant Show.
Chris, thank you for taking my call. You mentioned in the last segment how Pam Bondi is not going to release any Epstein files. Trump tried to shut that down at a press conference. Like, why are you guys even talking about this? I was going to ask you why you think that it is that he's not going to release the file. Me personally, I think it's because it's going to show that Epstein was working with Mossad and that he was using the blackmail, the information that he obtained on the island and the videos to control the politicians of the United States with blackmail, sexual blackmail, to get them to make favorable actions for Israel.
That is interesting. I've heard some variation of that, I guess. The truth is, Bob, I don't have any, I got a little bit, and I talked about it briefly yesterday, a little bit of just kind of Washington scuttlebutt, but I wouldn't necessarily take it to the bank at this point. And one of the one's very, very close to what you're talking about, Bob, is that there are so many members of Congress that had been to Epstein Island and Epstein's airplane and, Lolita One, that including Republicans, Democrats and Republicans, that you couldn't get your bills passed if all the names came out. President Trump, the Republicans couldn't get their bills passed if all the names came out. I can't say that that's true right now, but let us take one more phone call. I got to say that the news out of the White House, and I'm going to play the audio for you momentarily. President Trump and Pam Bondi, the Attorney General of the United States of America, yesterday in the cabinet meeting, taking endless questions from annoying reporters and about the Epstein thing, and there is a good deal of dissatisfaction as to the way that transpired yesterday. Including by a great many people that voted for President Trump and had higher expectations. And we expect the FBI and Kash Patel and Dan Bongino to be, saying, hey, we're gonna, all this stuff's gonna come out. And now it's kind of weird. Let's go to, and I want to know what you think about it, and I'll tell you what I think about it. We have audio of yesterday they want to share with you. And Jeffrey Epstein, turns out, has a brother. Epstein's brother. Got a note from Epstein's brother over here. And Epstein's brother was on the television last night, and he's not buying anything. He sounds like a conspiracy theorist. What do you think? He might buy a diabetes Barbie. Diabetes Barbie. And your toy store shelf next to bulimia Barbie. Bulimia Barbie. All right, let's go back to the telephones. Let's go to let's go to Michael calling from Gainesville, Virginia. Miguel, you're on the Chris Plant Show.
Thank you. A happy hump day.
Thank you very much. Happy hump day to you as well.
I'm of the opinion that was an orchestrated question, that Pam Bondi knew what was coming ahead of time. It was a fake gotcha question about the missing 1 minute, so she could throw that out there that was normal on the tape, that was not going to be in the disclosure, that 1 minute was always going to be missing. But the other opportunity for her was to say that Jeffrey Epstein just had a child porn download obsession, like he was busy watching Tracy Lords all the time or something. And it was just nothing more than that. And she's never going to show anybody the child porn downloads. And he wasn't generating these blackmail videos himself. That was Pam Bondi's opportunity to just muddy the waters. Miss Teen, South Carolina strikes again.
Now, I've got to say the vintage Tracy Lords reference was classic, and not everybody's going to, because I think that's water under the bridge or something like that. Now, let me say this, Michael. You sound skeptical when it comes to the Trump administration and Pam Bondi's Justice Department, and by extension, then Kash Patel's FBI and Dan Bongino at the FBI. You sound skeptical that you don't believe we're getting the straight dope from the Trump administration and the Pam Bondi Justice Department and the Kash Patel FBI. Is that right?
Yeah, I'm quite skeptical. I think they're trying to sort of, for the moment, make the public not realize that Jeffrey Epstein was definitely a asset of the intelligence agencies, honeypotting politicians into blackmail material so that they could control the political currents in this country. And they're just trying to sort of make it go away for the moment. And this may be an attempt to get everybody to start how would I say it? It's manufactured demand for disclosure.
For disclosure of what we all believe we should already have access to, and that's the truth and what was learned in the investigation and the names of people that were involved with Jeffrey Epstein on Epstein Island and the underage girls and foreign. Now, I mean, you're our first caller. Bob was also talking about Jeffrey Epstein working for the Israeli intelligence service Mossad, and so you're kind of on the same track. You're saying intelligence services, perhaps the U.S. intelligence services, and that is perhaps why Jeffrey Epstein didn't hang himself.
Right. He may not even be dead. He could be in witness protection somewhere. But the point is, it's just amazing that this is getting so chaotic in terms of all the different storylines that are going on as to what's happened to the Epstein case and whether there were files and whether there were lists. Obviously, there were lists. If you have people looking through all the files, the first thing you do is you put out a notepad and start writing down all the people that are in the files on a list.
Right.
You don't have to produce the files, but you do make lists of who's on there.
Right. You know, we've heard about Bill Gates, for example, going to Epstein Island, the multi-billionaire. And we've heard about others that, and we know that, there was a left-wing rag, who was it yesterday, put out a headline, they're not releasing the Epstein files because Trump's name appears in it. Now, we know, and it's been known forever, that Trump and Epstein, being rich guys in Manhattan, living the life, that they knew each other, they encountered each other. Epstein showed up at Mar-a-Lago once years ago, and Donald Trump apparently just about physically threw him out of Mar-a-Lago and expelled him from his property in a very public way. And I would think that if Jeffrey Epstein had been in possession of smear material, that would have been bad news for President Trump, that we would have heard all about it. And let me say this also, Michael, because I got to say, if what you're describing or if what Bob was describing a few minutes ago, if that were true, why didn't Jeffrey Epstein drop those bombs when he was still out there and still breathing? He had a trial. He had lawyers. He had people that take notes all over the place. Why wouldn't he drop these bombs or leave a bomb behind so that all of this would become public and they'd all blow up?
Right. That's blackmailers work with a dead man switch. That's why I'm saying he's probably not dead. He's in witness protection, so the dead man switch does not go off.
Well, that's a pretty elaborate scheme, though, isn't it? And he probably, if he's dead, it's harder to have access to your money and all that. And his family had a funeral for him and all those things, and the guards that were supposed to be watching him, I guess, went in and found his dead body hanging and all that. So there are a lot of people involved in this conspiracy, and then the EMTs come in and take his body out and bring it to so all these people would have to be involved, right?
Right, but okay, so there's like 12 people in the cell when the EMTs get there, but where's the video of that from the camera angle we just saw?
Yeah, the 1 minute of missing video is just, it's like the Kennedy assassination. Where's what happened to the 1 minute? And I don't know if you saw this, Michael, but I got a thing. The 1 minute missing video shows Hillary Clinton sneaking in and Hillary Clinton taking care of Jeffrey Epstein. It is a wild story, and I'm gonna play the audio what happened at the White House yesterday with President Trump and the Attorney General Pam Bondi, and then I've got Jeffrey Epstein's brother, Mark Epstein, who was on the television last night talking to. It's such an incestuous little circle fest in a hot tub, talking to Chris Cuomo, a member of the Cuomo family, while his brother. Will these people just go away? Amazing stuff. But in any case, Michael, you're not believing a word of it. You think that we're being lied to all over the place here. Now, what about President Trump? Is President Trump lying to us? Is Pam Bondi lying to us about this?
Yes, I believe that there's deception involved in what they're trying to lay a trap here that they're going to spring later. I'm not sure if Bondi's completely in on it, but I think Donald Trump is playing chess, and deception's required at the moment. Yes.
Well, I've got to say, if nothing else, let's just say for the moment that Jeffrey Epstein hanged himself, right, like a Christmas ornament, and that he's dead and buried and gone. We don't trust our government anymore. Boy, do we not trust our government anymore. We don't trust the new guy, Donald Trump, who's going to come in, and Kash Patel, who's going to come in and clean up all this stuff and reveal the truth at long last. And the new truth revealers take power, and still you don't believe a word you're getting.
Well, I don't think I'm ever getting the full truth willingly or happily.
Yeah.
I think it has to be dragged out of the situation more often than not. There's always some undercurrent of deception going on.
Yeah, now I got to tell you, one of the big pieces of this. And Michael, thank you very much for the call. I want to get to some audio from yesterday, but one of the big pieces, and it's not the first time we've seen this or the first time that I've talked about it here from this microphone, our lack of trust, our lack of faith, and confidence in our government to tell us the truth about anything is positively Soviet, that they have so eroded, hacked away at, demolished our trust in government that nobody believes anything anymore. And I know very serious, intelligent people. I was getting texts about it yesterday. I've got a friend who's a lifelong conservative, worked in the conservative movement, texted me yesterday, said, I am done with Trump and that whole Trump gang. I've just moved on. I have had it. And this is the latest, but not the only thing that had him riled up, but saying, that's it, dead to me, I'm out of here, forget about it. And I found that I said, it was a little bit of wow to that. And I took that into account. I tucked it away. And he's not the only one. I had at least one other Trump voter I can think of at the top of my head, just spitting mad yesterday, saying, what is it? What is the matter with Washington, D.C.? What is the matter with this place and with these people? And, a huge Trump supporter yesterday saying, what the, right? Now, let me get to the audio of the events yesterday. Now, it starts at 14, right? It starts at 15 with a reporter and the president having a very open cabinet meeting in the White House yesterday, which went on for a very long time. It was like that movie Dave, where he invites the press into the cabinet meeting and starts telling people to cut money out of their budgets to, because children or something like that. But President Trump does this again and again. His cabinet meetings are wide open to the press, invites them in. They're there for the whole thing. They go on for an hour and a half. They take questions until the reporters are exhausted and have no more questions to be answered. But a reporter weighed in. President Trump was not pleased because, he explains there's a lot going on. It started with a reporter in the cabinet meeting.
Jeffrey Epstein, it left some lingering mysteries. Could you say why there was a minute missing from the jailhouse tape on the night of the set?
Yeah, sure.
Could I just interrupt for 1 second? Are you still talking about Jeffrey Epstein? This guy's been talked about for years. You're asking, we have Texas, we have this, we have all of the things. And are people still talking about this guy, this creep? That is unbelievable. Do you want to waste the time, and do you feel like answering?
I don't mind answering.
President. I can't believe you're asking a question on Epstein at a time like this where we're having some of the greatest success and also tragedy with what happened in Texas. It just seems like a desecration, but you go ahead.
Well, honestly, this is part of what happens when you talk to the press for an hour and a half. You're going to get to everything eventually, and they're gonna talk about what you want to talk about, and they're gonna, because an hour into it, they've run out of the front page news. Although this is once again front page news because the missing 1 minute in the video. Honestly, it's like Richard Nixon and Rosemary Woods and the Oval Office tape of Richard Nixon and the missing minutes. Hey, what happened to because it's very suspicious, isn't it, when so many people don't believe that Jeffrey Epstein actually killed himself, and it gets pretty crazy. But the reporter asked, and Pam Bondi's there in the room, and everybody's there in the room, the entire cabinet, and plus. And so after you talk about this and talk about that, reporter dude gets to Jeffrey Epstein and the missing minute, right? And just crazy. And President Trump's like, come on, there's big news going on. What do you care? But Epstein, well, it's in the news and in the moment. And it was unsurprising, to me at least, that the question was asked. The Attorney General of the United States, Pam Bondi, was there, and it was her turn.
In February, I did an interview on Fox, and it's been getting a lot of attention because I was asked a question about the client list, and my response was, it's sitting on my desk to be reviewed, meaning the file, along with the JFK, MLK files as well. That's what I meant by that. Also, to the tens of thousands of video, they turned out to be child porn downloaded by that disgusting Jeffrey Epstein. Child porn is what they were. Never going to be released, never going to see the light of day.
Never good. Well, I would assume the Justice Department is not going to be publishing child porn. And then what about that missing 1 minute of video? The video is from the jail, the prison where Jeffrey Epstein was being held outside his jail cell because he was on suicide watch and looking at the door of his cell. And then there's 1 minute missing, which I guess with the government is just fine, and you shouldn't think anything about it. Pam Bondi.
And the minute missing from the video, we released the video showing definitively the video was not conclusive, but the evidence prior to it was showing he committed suicide. And what was on that, there was a minute that was off the counter. And what we learned from Bureau of Prisons was every night, they redo that video. It's old, from like 1999. So every night the video is reset, and every night should have the same minute missing. So we're looking for that video to release that as well, showing that a minute is missing every night. And that's it on Epstein.
Well, that makes perfect sense, doesn't it? Every night at the same minute, because the video's from the 1990s. Maybe it's a VHS tape or a beta tape or something. And now that is a pretty bourgeois answer, I've got to say. Not a good answer. It's got a lot of hackles up here, there, everywhere. And it doesn't really make a great deal of sense, but it's the official line coming from the United States government, the government of President Donald Trump and the Attorney General Pam Bondi, and And I got to say, if it raises an eyebrow with you, there's nothing inappropriate about that. Turns out that Jeffrey Epstein left a brother behind, Mark Epstein. Mark Epstein isn't buying any of this. He believes his brother was murdered and that there's a cover-up. He was on the television last night with, of all people, Chris Cuomo on News Nation, and Mark Epstein, brother of Jeffrey, said this.
Every time they say something or do something to try to quash the fact that he was most likely murdered, they just put their foot further down their mouth. I mean, for instance, Kash Patel in the congressional hearing, he listed his credentials as a prosecutor and other such things, and he said that it was a suicide. He said, you know a suicide when you see it. That's basically what he said. So the questions that popped into my mind was, first of all, number one, how many suicides has he seen? Number one. Two, is he a forensic pathologist? Does he have a medical degree?
Well, I don't know if you need to have a medical degree or be a forensic pathologist in this case, but Mark Epstein.
Was Kash Patel in the autopsy room? No. Was Kash Patel in the prison when they found Jeffrey? No, I don't think so. And if he was there, that raises even a bigger question. So every time they say something, when Kash Patel came out with that statement, I laughed at how stupid it was.
Yeah, and that's how stupid it was. He'd tell you how stupid the whole government line is. He's not buying it.
After the death, a few days after the death, Bill Barr, the Attorney General, said he saw that video and he saw that nobody went in or out of the tier, and that convinced him it was a suicide. And I heard that and I realized how stupid that was, because no one could get to that door, go in, kill somebody, leave completely undetected. That's like an asinine concept. So if Jeff was killed, he was either killed by somebody on the tier or when they locked up the tier.
Well, the brother is buying none of it, having none of it. Now, I got to say, Kash Patel was not the FBI director at the time of the Jeffrey Epstein death while in custody. I got to tell you, it's a crazy town. It's a crazy world, and you should choose your friends wisely. Choose your friends carefully, and if one of your friends was not Jeffrey Epstein, that's probably a good thing.